All to His Holiness Candramauli Swami Maharaj's daily class. Today we'll be continuing with the Srimad Bhagavatam. We're going to Canto 3, Chapter 3, Verse 22. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, glories Prabhupada, my obeisances to all the devotees, Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai.
Okay. Maharaj, would you like me to share the screen now?
Go ahead. Okay. Let's see here. Standard. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Tasvayaivam Ramanaryasya Samvatsara Ganam Bahun Grihamedeshu Yogeshu Viraga Samajayata. The Lord was thus engaged in household life for many, many years. But alas, his detachment from ephemeral sex life was fully manifested. Purport: even though the Lord is never attached to any kind of material sex life, as a universal teacher, he remained a householder for many, many years, just to teach others how one should live in household life. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that the word samajayata means fully exhibited. In all his activities while present on the earth, the Lord exhibited detachment. This was fully displayed when he wanted to teach by example that one should not remain attached to household life for all the days of one's life. One should naturally develop detachment as a matter of course. The Lord's detachment from household life does not indicate detachment from his eternal associates, the transcendental cowherd damsels. But the Lord desired to end his so-called attachment to the three modes of material nature. He can never be detached from the service of his transcendental associates like Rukmini and the other goddess of fortune, as described in the Brahma Samhita. Lakshmi Sarasya Satasam Samabripsam Brahma Sevyamanam Magyanti Mirandasya Gyanajana Salakaya Chaksun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapti Tamyena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nivasesa Sunyavari Pasyatyade Satarine Vanchakalpa Taruvishcha Kripa Sindhu Pe Vachapatitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaho Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama activities all the world pursues. This applies to Krishna when he comes to the material world up to a certain point. And therefore, we need the advice from the acharyas to see what he is teaching for us to learn and to apply, and what is not necessarily for us to follow. For example, having 16,108 wives, that wasn't an example people should follow, or even 16 wives. But he was also teaching household life in the midst of that numerous amongst. In other words, he was almost like a henpecked husband in many of his relationships with his queens, especially in Dwarka. It says, it describes that when the rooster would crow in the morning, he would wake up, and the first thing he would do after taking bath, he would meditate. Well, who's he going to meditate on? It says he meditated on himself. But we shouldn't try to meditate on ourselves because that's not the process of meditation. We follow the same principle early in the morning. It's recommended. And one wake up during the Brahma Muhurta hour, at least an hour and a half before sunrise. In our present situation, sunrise is about 6 o'clock in the morning. So getting up at 4:30 would be considered to be normal for anyone who is practicing devotional service. Of course, there's those who get up earlier, but that would be considered to be the ideal, an hour and a half before sunrise. And then even Lord Chaitanya, if you read the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya's daily activities, he would also awake to the crowing of the rooster and the, what we say, the chirping of the birds within the environment. He would get up, remember his activities during the night with his eternal consort, Vishnu Priya, and then he would go and take his bath and finish his morning duties. And then he would gather his associates, and then he would go down to the banks of the Ganga and again bathe in the Ganga. No, the activities of the Lord throughout the day are delineated in the Astakaliya Lila and his activities. So some things that he is teaching, especially how one should act within household life. Here it says one should not keep household life all the way to one's end of life. The Varnashram system, which is the system given by Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvarnya Maya Srista Guna Karma Vibhagasyahat, that one should perform their activities in different ashrams throughout life. In other words, from the very beginning, for the first 25 years, one remains single, brahmachari student, works under the guidance of the spiritual master, and learns the principles of obedience to the spiritual master and dedication to the process of the instructions of the spiritual master. After 25 years, it says one can stay in that ashram or they can move on and take on the Grihastha ashram. And that's also for another 25 years. And then one can have children, grow up the children when the children are grown, and there's no need anymore for responsibilities in that ashram. Then they can retire from that, go to a holy place and perform devotional service in that holy place. And then in the last 25 years, take sannyas and end their life. In that way, they fulfill the purpose of human life, which is haritoshanam, to ultimately please the Lord in devotional service. And the Varnashram system is designed for the conditions of living entities to be situated both in ashram and in one's duty according to one's nature, and live in that way. It's the foundation. It's considered to be material, but it's foundational in order for moral and religious principles to organically, nicely develop. Of course, in our Krishna conscious society, we don't follow that strictly, but that's the standard And that was given by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, like that. So those who stay in household life all the way to the end, and then they don't become detached from that environment along with that their spouse, and then they're forced to take birth again in their next life. So gradually detaching oneself in different phases of life and moving on to the next phase till they reach perfection where they can go back home, back to God, which is ultimately the goal of human life. So this is all indicated in Shastra and also taught by the Lord himself. He detached himself from household life at one point, although he was never detached, as it says here, from his associates who were his internal energy, like Rukmini and Satyabhama and Kalindi, Mitravindra, all of the queens that were the prominent queens in Dwarka. Still, but he showed by example how to live in that ashram and how to move towards the goal of life and achieve that in the end of life. So the example is given. But one needs the instructions and guidance of the spiritual master in order to delineate between what we should follow in terms of what the Lord did and what we should not try to imitate in what the Lord did. That way we can make the distinction and not fall into the category of sahajya, taking things cheaply and trying to imitate the Lord, or rejecting some of the foundational principles for our spiritual development and acting simply on the platform of sense gratification or just acting whimsically. So human life has to be regulated. If it's not regulated, then the living entity will find themselves not be able to fulfill their desires and at the same time not achieve the goal of life. So regulation is important. Even animals are regulated, but they don't live according to regulation. Their bodies are designed to be controlled by the material energy, and so therefore they follow. Just like Prabhupada says, if you throw a whole bag of grains on the ground, the birds will come and they'll eat what is there until they're satisfied, and then they'll go. And they know that tomorrow, the next day, there'll be food for them. They, but a man will come and see all the grains that are available. He'll eat what he wants, and he'll take the next day. He'll take the rest and stock it for the next day. So the animals, they work under the control of their nature, and guided by that nature, they fulfill their purpose in animal life, living accordingly. Of course, sometimes animals need control, so they don't go beyond that, such as keeping cows and bulls separated within the herd, so not too many cows get impregnated, and then there was more cows than one can actually maintain. So there is some regulation that is organized by the human society in certain cases, but in general, animals work under the control of their nature, guided by Krishna through the external energy. So here, the Lord is never attached to anything, but he teaches by example. You know, just like we understood that Lord Chaitanya, he is God himself, but he played the role of a devotee of God just to teach how a pure devotee should act in relationship to the Supreme Lord. He says he's teaching by example. He becomes his own devotee to teach from the position of the student, although he is the master. So he's the best teacher because he knows what the master wants, and therefore, taking the role of the student, he shows that by example. Well, Lord Chaitanya did that. So this detachment An example is there. Prabhupada also talks about that. He said, I may come, just like Prabhupada taught us some of the basic things that we need to know, like he taught us how to wash the floor. And so he took 2 buckets of water and a rag and got down on his hands and knees and showed one of his disciples how you wash the floor. Now, he's not a floor washer, and that's not his service, but he's teaching. He's teaching. So sometimes in that sense, we find that devotees take different roles in order to teach others how to perform their own activities from the position of a teacher, and not because that is their actual activity or role. So therefore, detachment is there, and detachment towards the external energy is necessary in order not to be encumbered by that energy and therefore forced to act according to that energy. Detachment leads to attachment to something higher. There's no such thing as detaching yourself from certain material activities without attaching yourself to spiritual activities. There are people who try to do that. They detach themselves from certain material activities, but they wind up taking other material activities in replace. So there's no detachment there. They're just giving up one form of material activity to take another. Prabhupada used the examples of the hippies, They detached themselves from family, they detached themselves from home life, they detached themselves from a lot of things, but they lived like vagabonds attached to that type of lifestyle, more like not following any rules and regulations, but still under the influence of the material energy. But that's not real detachment. Real detachment is explained by Srila Rupa Goswami. Anashaktasya visayan ye upayunjate nirbande Krishna sambande yukta vairagya uchjate. So it's vairagya, but it's yukta vairagya. Yukta means in relationship to. So how to use things that we give up for our own sense gratification, but using those same things in the service of the Lord. That is called yukta vairagya, or real detachment. Because detachment doesn't mean stop, it means to give up and to reconnect with something higher. So just like we may want to sing, but we sing for Krishna rather than singing for our own personal aggrandizement or for some pecuniary rewards. We sing for Krishna. So that's detachment. Although we're performing the activity, it's not for us, it's for the glorification of the Lord. So this is how devotional service plays itself out. Taking things that we would normally use for our own sense gratification and using it in the service of the Lord to please the Lord, which connects us to the Lord in devotion, which elevates us to the spiritual platform. That is the essence of the process of bhakti. So, but detachment has to be there. And then there's certain things we can't use in the service of the Lord, such as illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling. These are the restrictions given to us at the time of initiation to keep us from falling into the activities of material existence, which in this case are sinful and causes one to fall from the position of spiritual practice. So devotees follow very strictly those 4, we call it principles of knowledge, principles of austerity, to detach oneself from certain material activities that will cause us not to advance in spiritual life and will keep us entangled in the material energy. And there are others. These are the 4 principles. But it is explained in Shastra and by the spiritual teachers that these 4 principles contain within them all sinful activities. So if one carefully and continuously follows these restrictions, one can be freed from all sinful activities. And if there's no sinful activities, then there's no connection to the material energy. In other words, one can elevate themselves easily through the process of devotional service like that. Okay, so we have to learn detachment and we have to learn attachment. Sometimes it's mentioned that attachment overshadows detachment and destroys detachment. In other words, become attached to Krishna and you'll become detached to things unrelated to Krishna, or things that are similar but not being used in the service of the Lord. So in the same way, that process is also the same thing, but it's done in a different way. That's why when devotees join the Hare Krishna movement, we tell them do this and don't do that. These are called what is favorable, anukulena, what is unfavorable, pratikulena. To accept things favorable, to reject things unfavorable. Many of the so-called spiritual processes that are available in today's modern society don't teach people detachment. They teach people, you do this, you do this, you do this, but you can do anything you want at the same time. In other words, as long as you do these, that's fine. But no one talks about giving up other activities. But Prabhupada says, there is principles that keep us connected to the material energy. So if we want to take full shelter of the spiritual energy and become benefited by that shelter, we have to stop performing certain material activities. And there's the gross ones, and then there's the subtle ones. We mentioned the gross, but each one of the gross ones has a subtle connection to it also. So when we give up the gross, we have to realize that we are still not on the purified level until we actually give up the subtle connection, just like illicit sex. So you stop illicit sex. But then again, adoration, material profit, distinction, honor, if one is attached to these things, these are considered to be subtle forms of illicit sex. So each of the gross sinful activities has a subtle connection also. And therefore one has to learn those also and become purified from them. So the process of purification goes from gross to subtle, like that. And then when subtle is removed, then one is free from that anartha, that sinful activity. And you see also in the scriptures, there are certain statements that give clarence on how one can detach oneself from certain subtle forms of sense gratification, such as unnecessary anger. Anger is destroyed by forgiveness, like that. And so different types of envy is destroyed by taking shelter of devotional service and serving the Vaishnavas. And then envy is destroyed through the mode of service to the Vaishnavas. Okay, so these are some things we can think about. Because devotional service needs to be carefully performed so we don't get trapped in the wrong things and think it is okay. Therefore, we need to hear regularly from Guru, from Sadhu, from Shastra, and from Krishna here also. So when we hear regularly, then we understand what is to be done and what is to be relinquished. Okay. Mhm.
Thank you, Maharaj, for such a wonderful class. Dear devotees, if you have any questions, please raise your hands. If you're not able to speak, then you can type your questions in the chat box and I'll read it out for you. Maharaj, while we're waiting, I had a question. So we know how important it is to detach ourselves, but how can we turn our attachments, for example, for our family members, into something Krishna conscious, especially when they're not devotees?
No, just make them try to be an example for Krishna consciousness. Live in that way. Not that you are um, a devotee when you're with devotees and you're a non-devotee when you're with the non-devotees. No, become a devotee even when you're with the non-devotees. Be an example and live in that way. Teach by example. And at the same time, when it comes to family members, if they're a little bit receptive, you can speak something and try to encourage them to understand what is the actual purpose of human life is to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But sometimes family members want to stay the way they are, and therefore, if you have to associate with them, keep the association very much limited so you don't become influenced by their ways and by their uh, statements towards you about how you should become a better family member. So therefore, take we need family, so therefore take shelter of the family of devotees. The devotees are also our family. They're actually the real family. Did we choose our mother, our father, our relatives? No, they're given to us because of our karma. That's all.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you. Daria Mataji, would you like to ask a question?
Yes, thank you very much. My humble obeisances. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
My humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Maharaj. So in the text, it was mentioned that Krishna became detached later in life, but that didn't mean that he was detached from his associates. So I was wondering for us if it's still the same, that we should be detached from the family, but then if we should, for example, keep association of devotee, is that still okay to be attached to devotee later in life?
Be detached to devotees all the time, not later in life, now. Krishna's family was a family of devotees. So even when he had his family members, the queens, they were all devotees. But he's just showing that became detached from the activities of family life. That's all. So we should be attached to devotees, and we should, if you have to associate with your family members, bring them into the family of devotees, if you can. If you see it's not happening, or you're wasting your time, then remove yourself from that association. Visit them, don't spend so much time in family life. Family life is the greatest attachment to the material world and can block one's path in devotional service. So we want association because by nature we are sentient beings, so we want relationships. Develop relationships with devotees. They're your real family.
But for example,
Yeah, Prabhupada gave the example, develop relationships through serving together, worshiping together, chanting together, taking prasadam together, helping each other in devotional service. then we enter into the family of Vaishnavas, which is the real family. That family will become our eternal family. Our material family, every year, every birth, we get a mother and a father. How many births do you get a guru? Very rare.
I was just wondering, why is it then still recommended that one takes sannyas in the last 25 years?
Yeah.
Like a devotee family, for example?
Well, that's generally the recommended routine according to different divisions within life. In other words, complete for ladies, they don't take sannyas, but they leave the family and they go to a holy place, such as Mayapur or Vrindavan or some holy place, and then they finish their life there serving the deity. They develop attachment to the deity, and then they finish their life in that move, and then they go back to Godhead, the end of life. So both ladies and men are meant to detach. The men are meant to travel, and the women are meant to go to a holy place and finish their life there. After the children are grown up and there's no more need for family relationships like that. But then you know, and says that the materialists they want to see their children from 5 generations to be the grandfather, the great grandfather, not grandfather, but the great great grandfather. This family life is the block, the biggest block in spiritual life. Attachment to it. But we have devotees who became Krishna conscious and they brought their family members to Krishna conscious. So that's a great service you can do. And then you can stay in that same family and it's no longer a material family, it's a spiritual family. There are many devotees who grow up in Krishna conscious. Their parents are devotees, they're devotees, and they still interact in the same way, but they're all doing devotional service. They all have the same goal. But material family life is a huge stumbling block on the path of self-realization.
Okay.
Is that okay, Mataji?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dari Mataji. Suma Mataji, would you like to go ahead?
Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances unto you. All glories to Prabhupada and you. Maharaj, I hope I understand a little tiny bit of today's class, the importance of the detachment and the attachment. But I have a small question, Maharaj. What is the time that we can leave the family? With being a mother of 2 young children,
Yeah,
and
when the kids are grown up and they have their own families now. The daughter's married, the son is married, then that's the time to move away from it. It's the
I'm
duty.
waiting.
It's the duty of the father to make sure the daughter gets married. That's his duty. If he doesn't do that, he gets a sinful reaction to that. And the son, so taking, teach them Krishna consciousness and then let them move into their own life. Then you can move away from that whole business like that. If you make them devotees, and then they have their own family and they're all devotees, you can still interact. We don't interact with the non-devotees, whether family members or not family members.
how can we practice in regular life? Like I have a 5-year and 13-year-old boys. Like whenever I feel like no, I have to, like not too much attachment. I have to practice this, but uh, some are other reasons or some are other situations comes, and I'm like too much attached again and again.
Oh, yeah.
How can I do that?
Do your duty as a mother. You have a 5-year-old. That 5-year-old boy is very much dependent on his parents. Well, yeah, take care of them, but practice Krishna consciousness. Teach them to be devotees too. Your attachment to them is not to the body, but to them, the soul, the part and parcel of Krishna. Serve them in the role of a mother so they grow also in spiritual life and also get what they need in material life so they can grow happy and healthy. So we don't reject spiritual family life because that's what it's about. So it says, the Shastras say, turn to that verse, Srijana,
Yes, Maharaj.
5th canto, 5th chapter, verse 18, 5:18. Mhm. 5th canto, 5th verse. Guru Nasasya Janas Jun Sasya Swana Jis Guru Nasasya Swajano Nasasyat Piti Nasasyaj Jana Nanasasyat Daiva Natatsyam Napatis Nasasyan Namocheya Samapetram. One who cannot deliver his dependence on the path of repeated birth and death should never become a spiritual master, a father, a husband, a mother, or a worshipful demigod. So those who are in a position to guide others, they have to be qualified. So it says if you can't bring your children to Krishna consciousness, you failed as a mother. You failed as a father. You failed as a spiritual master. You failed as a whatever role you play in guiding others. That's the understanding. The purport is very detailed. Prabhupada goes into it very clearly and explains everything in detail. You can read that also.
Yes, Maharaj. Sure.
So we have
5582.
responsibilities. We're not like animals. You just make kids and then you feed them, let them grow up, and then that's it. No. And you send them to school and they learn how to make money, and that's life. No, that's not, that's animal life. Human life is for self-realization. So it's your duty to give them as much as you can, both on the material level and the spiritual level. And it's up to them to accept it and grow from it. You have to do your best together with your husband, both of you together. But as Prabhupada mentions in the purport, unless you're an example for what you want to give, you won't be able to give it. You have to become Krishna conscious in order to help others become Krishna conscious.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Hari Hari.
Thank you, Mataji. Sridevi Mataji, would you like to go ahead?
Yes, Srijana, thank you so much. Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. On this subject of detachment and Krishna conscious family life, I was thinking, Guru Maharaj, that when parents become old and their children are grown up and their children have children, the grandchildren become very attached to the grandparents, and the grandparents also become very attached to the children, and they have a very close bond and an important connection, in the sense that grandparents can really give a lot that the parents cannot give in Krishna consciousness also. So then, in such situations, how detachment can happen, because there's a very important caretaking role as Krishna conscious grandmother or grandfather, and imparting spiritual education as well as a lot of emotional support for the parents and the grandchildren also.
Yeah, sounds like the Indian family.
I'm seeing a lot and I'm just wondering about that. That's why I'm asking.
But the answer is that those who are elderly, they should move away from that as time goes on so they don't die in that atmosphere also.
Well, they show no signs of wanting to leave, that's for sure. They're always talking about grandson did this, he's so attached to me, granddaughter wanted this, I went for 2 days, she was crying, and until I came back, she wouldn't eat, and this and that, and all this stories I'm hearing from other ladies my age. So I was just thinking that I wonder
Therefore,
what will
therefore,
happen.
what's the solution is community where devotees live together in a broader sense, not just the nuclear family. There's many grandmothers, many mothers, many fathers, many children. It's a
Hmm.
family of devotees extended beyond the bounds of the nuclear family. That's
But
the
it's
idea.
like a but it's like a tearing apart, Guru Maharaj. I can see there's a lot of attachment, and if you tell them no, no, you must leave, and of course I'm never going to do
Well,
that. But
that's that's not true for everybody. Some people are like that, and some are not.
oh, okay, thank you,
You
Guru Maharaj.
can't say you can't generalize and say everybody's like that.
But
It's
it's
not,
true that a lot of Indian families are like that.
yeah, that's the Indian family. As Prabhupada used to say, when I came to the West, it was easier for me to make devotees. I had difficulties preaching in India because people are too attached to their families, but the Westerners weren't so attached, so they came to me. Yeah, Prabhupada has said that very often, not just once.
I can see that every stage of life there are challenges. It's not like, oh, now I'm in my 60s, it's easier or any such thing, Guru Maharaj. Everywhere Maya is waiting to catch us.
Prabhupada had family members too, and those family members, he took care of them too. Even when he became a spiritual master, he made sure they got some money, but so they could live in that way. He didn't neglect that. He made arrangements for some money to be given to the family members. But some of them, one of them tried to take all the assets because they said we are the heir to our grandfather, and then they tried to put Prabhupada put everything in writing and stop that. You know, they tried to take all of the assets that Prabhupada had acquired as a spiritual master. Prabhupada could foresee that, and then he gave them something like that. So the idea is we have to be attached to Krishna. That's the idea. We have to be attached to devotional service. We have to be attached to associating with devotees.
Is that okay, Mataji?
Yes. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. My obeisances.
Okay, did you get what I sent you? I sent you something just recently.
Uh, by email, Guru Maharaj?
Yeah, yesterday I think I sent it. Wasn't
Okay,
just
I'll
you,
check.
it was to a number of people. Oh, you
Oh,
were
I'm sorry. I haven't checked my email. I will do that shortly, Guru Maharaj.
Yeah, I think you'll like it. I forgot what I said, but I know you'll like it anyway. I'm always sending things to the conference. Devotees, no devotees don't send anything to the conference. That's what the conference is for, to send things to inspire other devotees, to discuss philosophical points on the conference like that. That conference is there not just for me to drop things so everybody can read. It's an interactive, it's reciprocal. It's not about complaining, though. That's not, that you don't put on the conference. It's always, you know, of course, if you have if there's some questions, that could also be, you could put a question to the conference saying, this is a question, and then see and get the answer like that. But I don't see devotees using the conference much.
Well, now that you have clarified, Guru Maharaj, a little bit, that's very helpful. I was always thinking that it is to receive what you're sending, like
Yeah,
that.
every day, Mahima sends a statement by Srila Prabhupada along with a visual. She's been doing it for 4 or 5 years now, more than that. They're very insightful, and very spiritually enlivening to hear these things. I also send things that were later published in the book called Daily Drops. So I still do that in some cases. For Prahlad Nrsimha, he uses the conference. If he likes something, he puts something on. He's one person that does it more often than anybody else. Yeah, that's what it's for. But it's not, if you're a real estate, if your business is real estate, you don't sell real estate on the conference. The reason I'm saying that is one of my disciples started to do that. So I had to stop it.
Thank you, Maharaj. Yeah.
For spiritual topics.
Amitanam Mataji, would you like to go ahead and ask a question?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Guru Maharaj, a follow up on what Sri Devi Mataji was asking. Old age also brings physically challenging conditions. Old age also brings physically challenging conditions. So when one is in vanaprastha, and at that time, usually, at least I'm from Indian background, so I've seen that the kids taking care of their parents, if they're physically not capable to keep their body and soul together. So, how about that if we consider, going to the dham or leaving the family in vanaprastha?
Yeah, our Vanaprastha ashram is not clarified, especially because we're living in most of the devotees live in the Western world. There is a book called Vanaprastha Ashram that was compiled and written and compiled by Devaki. She gives a lot of insights. We've had discussions with some senior devotees and organize gatherings on the topic to see what it means to practice Vanaprastha ashram. So there's still things to be worked out. But I think if you read that book by David Key, you'll find a lot of insight there. But Prabhupada has said usually the husband and wife separate and they go to a holy place and perform their devotional service there. They can live in a temple, they can live in a yatra place, they can live in a community. That's what these communities are for. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Yeah.
Krishna.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mataji. Pachari Prabhu, please go ahead. Prabhu, you're on mute. Sorry.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to all the devotees on the call. Guru Maharaj, you mentioned that, made that point that envy can be destroyed by serving Vaishnava. Could you please elaborate on that and how does that process work?
Yeah, if you feel envious towards a person, just start doing service for them. That will destroy it. Envy is the opposite. So you're counteracting it with the positive. So just start serving that person you're feeling envious towards. Give gifts and maybe look for opportunities to do something on a personal level. If you know envy is bad, destroys all good qualities. But service to the Vaishnava brings about all good qualities.
Does this apply also to envy you have outside the devotee? Does it apply also to envy you have outside the devotee community?
Oh, if you're envious of the non-devotees?
Yeah, when you're at work, you know?
Yeah. Then, yeah. Well, then again, it might take a little bit of introspection to deal with that type of envy by accepting the fact that people are better and people are lesser. Material life, the materialists who want to artificially arrange society where everyone is equal. It's not possible. There's no equality on the material level. Can't have it. The only way you can attain equality is that you organize a center and everybody works towards that center. So say you're in a corporation and the corporation has a particular goal. So the employees all work to help support the goal of the corporation and work conjointly in that way, and they all receive their remuneration like that. But in the material world, you can't stop envy because the whole material world is full of envy. It's practically goes on envy. Look at the wars today. These are the oil is in one place and in another place somebody wants that same oil. So they start a war.
Yeah.
Yeah, Trump wanted the oil from Venezuela, so he attacked one in Venezuela. That's envy.
Yeah.
Greed, envy, these are all connected to each other in activity.
Yeah.
So we can learn to appreciate people who may be better than us in the same occupation by learning from them what are their skills and maybe adopting some of their skills so we can improve in our own occupation. Rather than trying to tear them down, see if you can learn from them and then improve in your own occupation, in your own material duties.
That's very practical. That's very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And
yeah. Envy doesn't help anybody. It's never beneficial.
Yeah.
That's why Prabhupada said, you can somehow use lust, anger, greed, illusion, and pride in devotional service, but envy you have to get rid of. He said that one you cannot dovetail.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in a few weeks.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking forward to meeting all the devotees. Things are building up very nicely. There's going to be a grand assembly of devotees. It's really wonderful. Devotees can really come together as a family and share Krishna consciousness together. You gain so much from these types of programs, these types of retreats. You become so energized and you really start to understand deeper what is Krishna consciousness.
Looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, me too. Ekachakra can't wait till it's over. She's been working for the last 6 months to make it happen.
Yeah, there are a lot of devotees who are helping out quite a lot here.
She's doing an amazing service.
Yeah.
A really amazing service.
Thank you, Prabhu. We've just hit the hour, dear devotees. If there's any last questions, please go ahead. Maharaj, while we're waiting, I had a question. So pure love of God seems something so difficult and hard to attain. So how can we be motivated to understand that it is something that we can one day achieve?
It's in your heart. What do you mean hard to attain? You already got it. You got to just bring it out. It cannot be brought in from any place. It cannot be created. It's already in your heart. Nityasiddha Krishna Prema Saruka Monoi Sravanadi Chitte Kodiye Udoy. Udoy means it's there. Bring it out. Chant, dance, take Krishna Prashadam. Prabhupada was talking about Prashadam today. It was really interesting. He said, Prashadam, to take Prashadam is service. He said it's Prashadam Seva. So when we're taking Prashadam, we're doing service, and that pleases Krishna. So when Krishna sees devotees taking Prashadam, he becomes pleased. So even Prashadam is service. When it's done in the mood of, I'm honoring Prashadam. It's nourishing, it's tasty, it gives energy, and it pleases Krishna. Well, I just wanted to point that out, that everything we do is meant to bring out that natural love for Krishna, which is there in the heart. It's not created. It's not brought in from another source. It's there.
Thank you, Maharaj. Yeah. Revati Mataji, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Lord Prabhupada. I have a question about, mentioned Guru Maharaj, each cross activity, it has a subtle impression, like whatever activities we do. So when we purify at a gross level, still subtle level is not purified. So how the gross, that connection, Guru Maharaj, how we can like completely purify at subtle level, even though like, we are trying to, at a gross level, we are trying to.
You just keep going in your Krishna consciousness. Gradually, as you make more and more advancement, it uproots the subtle aspects of the same anartha. If you read the Shastras, you can see what are the gross and what is the subtle nature of each of the anarthas also. Each anartha has a subtle connection also.
Okay.
Yeah, so the process, it's not that you stop and you do something different after you get rid of the gross attachments. Can continue the same process. When you're cleaning, you can clean what you can see, and that's the gross cleaning, but you should clean what you can't see also. That's the subtle cleaning. So you're cleaning a room, so you just clean where you can see, but you don't move the furniture away. You don't go behind the bed. You look under the bed, it's got more dust than there is on Mount Meru, Move your furniture around and you'll see behind it, there's stuff there. You even meet some living entities that have made their home there. So yeah, so it's the same thing. We're cleaning the heart. So you can't see them, but keep cleaning, that's all. Cheto, Darpanam, Marginum. Cleanse the heart.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, yeah, trying. Because as you said, like things which we cannot see, I think maybe Holy Spiritual Master can guide us in those things.
Yeah, that's why you get married. Your husband can see it. You can see his and he can see yours.
Yes.
That's why association with devotees helps us to reflect our own anarthas also.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Raj Prabhu, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you. Guru Maharaj, sometimes we get attached to a particular kind of service. Is it a good attachment? Is it a bad attachment?
Getting attached to a particular service?
Yes, a particular type of service.
Yeah, that's good. But if someone says, we need this service done, and you're the only one that can do it because you're the only one available, and you say, well, I can't do that service because I'm attached to this other one, then that is not acceptable, because you could be attached to serving in a certain way, but then in certain cases you may be asked to or have to do another service. So you should be able to do that also. Still, you have your main service. That's fine. Prabhupada was giving spiritual guidance. He's in the role of a Brahmana, but he taught us how to clean the floor. And he showed us. So he's not a floor cleaner, but he's teaching from the role of giving philosophical and spiritual guidance. So that's the role of a Brahmana. So a floor cleaner is a Sudra's work. But for the sake of teaching or sake of emergency, like Dronacharya was a Brahmana. But when the war started, he took up fighting. Yeah. Kripacharya was a Brahmana. When the war started, he took up fighting. Asvatthama, the son of Dronacharya, was also a Brahmana, but he also engaged in Kshatriya activities. So when it was an emergency and there's a need, one can do a different service that will be different than their prescribed service. But that doesn't mean you do that service all the time. It's just certain occasions when it's needed. Say you're at home and and someone say you're give you an example. Well, your wife's duty is to cook and your duty is to take care of other businesses in the household. So the wife is absent one day and you think, well, she's not cooking, I'll just starve. No, you cook. Do the needful. Sometimes it's required. But it's good if you're attached to one type of service. That's nice. And that way you can perfect that service. That's Van Ashram also.
Got it, Maharaj. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj.
Thank you, Prabhu. Maharaj, there's no more questions. Would you like to end the class here? Is that okay?
Yeah, I have another engagement coming up very soon, so I have to depart. So thank you very much. And tomorrow is Sunday. Tomorrow we'll speak on Van Ashram, and we'll get deeper into it. We laid the groundwork for it in last week's presentation. Now we'll go deeper into some of the more detailed aspects of Van Ashram.
Yes, Maharaj. So it'll be at the same time tomorrow, the Varnashram class, 11:30 UK time. Yeah. Thank you, dear devotees, for attending today's class. Thank you, Maharaj, for such a wonderful class. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, His Holy Maharaj ki jai.
Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari
Hari
Hari.
Hari Bol. Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Hari Hari Hari.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Thank you. Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. I'll end the class here.
Sujana, you're
Thank
sleeping.
you, Sujana.
Don't you know what to do now?
I do. I'm just waiting for you to leave, Maharaj, and then I'll end the class.
You have to bring you back to the classroom. All right. You're supposed to end the Zoom call. The host is supposed to end the class, not me.
Okay, I'll end here then, Maharaj. Thank you. Thank you so much.